So it would help if the mic were on. That would definitely help us get sound out. Oh, I have one of my lights off. Honestly, I think it looks okay. We're gonna run with it. Hi, welcome to Live Coding with me, Rachel. Today, we're gonna work with Haskell. Haskell? Haskell. It's a language. We're not actually gonna touch it, but we will be working with things built in it. And those things is Duckling. So I'm just gonna wait a second and make sure everything is good to go with my streams. How y'all doing? Hopefully good. All right, looks like we're good on Twitch. How's YouTube? Always takes longer. Looks great. Actually, I don't know, I kind of like this lighting setup. What do y'all think? You don't have to have opinions on it, but if you do. Hi, Faison. Right. Duckling. What is Duckling? First of all, I should have pulled up their Duckling. I should have pulled that up first, but I didn't because I'm zero brain right now. So one pretty common question I get is, hey, I want to extract something from text, like a date or an HTTP or a URL or an email or a credit card number or something that tends to have the same format every time. So pin code, for example, or post code in other places. And I recommend, and we recommend at Rasa in general, using Duckling to do this. So Duckling, boop, 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 boop. Scroll in so y'all can see. Faison says, I still couldn't learn. I hope you make it easy as possible. That's my hope. It's I've been working on a tutorial and just making very little progress, not because it's hard, because brain bad. I've got to, you know, when you have a process running that's taking up all of your RAM and you're like, I can't quit it. It's just got to finish running. That's where I am right now. So Duckling is a library in Haskell, that really efficiently and really predictably will extract entities of certain types. So date, time, addresses, anything where you might be tempted to write a regular expression to do it on your own. You can write a regular expression in Rasa, but we would recommend first seeing if Duckling will handle it. Dickshot says, can I extract certain strings? Yes, but there are sort of a limited number of classes of things that are built in, and you're going to need to do a little bit of futzing if you want something a little bit outside of the domain that they do. So it's Clojure. Oh, I thought it's Clojure. I thought it was Haskell. Wow, okay. I was wrong with that. We're working in Clojure. A language I have never touched, and one time got an interview question on for a technical interview for a job that had nothing to do with Clojure. I'm still salty about that, by the way. It was a bad interview, and I blame the interviewer. Good news, I'm not going to be able to focus very good. So if you have specific entities that you're looking for that you can provide examples of that perhaps are related to each other in meaning, you can do that right in Rasa by providing entity examples in your training data, in your NLU data. But for a specific class of things, Duckling is going to be a better choice, and that specific class of things includes, I got a list in here. Time, temperature, numbers, ordinals, distance, volume, amount of money, duration, email, URL, and phone number. So basically things where it's going to be written in a relatively limited number of formats, more or less. Dishon says, Ross responds on live sessions. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. I've tried to. Sometimes I get distracted and it takes a while. Hi, Ravi. And if you have more general questions than what we're working on in the live coding on any given day, starting next Wednesday, we're going to be having office hours on Wednesday. So it'll be me, at least for the first little bit, somebody else from the Rasa team. Come with your questions and we'll help you out. And that's the whole point of the thing. For a whole hour, it's just answering questions. So that'll be Wednesday at this time slot. Yep, so of course you could write, you know, a set of regular expressions that would be able to handle common phone number formats, but why? Regular expressions are really hard to debug. Someone else has already done it for you. There's no call to do that, right? You do not have to. So lots and lots of discussion. This is developed by Wit AI, which is a company that was acquired by Facebook. So if you look up the Duckling repository on GitHub, I believe it is now part of Facebook. Yep, so it's part of Facebook Archive. Yeah, and then, oh, it's been deprecated in favor of this one. That's good to know. Okay, I was like, I lost my mind. I could have sworn it was in Haskell. Okay, so the original version was in Clojure. The current version that's currently being maintained is in Haskell. And I'm assuming this is the one that we're using in Rasa by default. Dylan says, I'm here, numbers today. So Duckling is what you would use to extract numbers. So partway there. I don't know that we're gonna get all the way there, but yes, we're working towards it. Masterclass for 2.0. Not soon, but we definitely, yeah, there do need to be some stuff re-recorded for the master class, because right now it's really focused on 1.0, which is fairly different. Am I going to use Docker? I'm probably just going to run it locally today. Can we extract emails and validate them to check if they really exist or not? That's a great question. So you would use Duckling to extract the entities, and then you probably want to run a custom action that does some sort of data validation. So looking it up in a database would be one way of doing that. And I have kind of a simple example in the project that we were working on for a while, the dialect quizbot, which I have on my my GitHub, where I had a database. So it was just like a dictionary that I entered by hand in my actions.py file. And then I just looked up if it was there or not. But obviously you could use a database or something else. And also don't store emails as plain text in your Python code. Unless it's like example@example.com or something that you're just using for debugging. All right. Okie dokie. That's nothing. Nobody says that. Yeah, and then this one, it looks like pretty much the same same things that it extracts. And also you can see that it extracts not just the value, but also information about the, you know, about the thing that it has exported, like the unit. This is a credit card number and is saying, hey, it's from Visa. So and we're going to be working in English today. Duckling does support other languages. And oh, this is a list of ISO codes or ISO abbreviations. Like this one's Spanish, this one's English, this one's German, this one's don't know that one off the top of my head. French, Hungarian, maybe? Guessing that's Hindi. I could be wrong. Anyway, so more languages are exported, and you can dig into that a little bit more, but we are going to add it to our current project, which is basically a bot to automate answering some of the questions I tend to get pretty often. So one of the questions I get is, do you have a live stream today or something like that? So I was thinking what we could do is we could handle the time component and figure out what today is, and then have a little bit of Python code that checks if I have a live stream today. So that is the point that we're going to be doing. Martina says, can you extract multiple entities from a single user statement using Duckling? Yes, and they are not going to be ordered. And I believe we talked about that in the docs. Robbie says, Clojure and Haskell are my first languages. Oh. I would say that that's, for people who are learning programming right now, a fairly unusual selection of things. Back in the day, so like I want to say in the 90s or early 2000s, the Audis, it was pretty common for most NLP to be done in Perl. So a lot of people who've been in NLP for a while, their first language was Perl, if NLP was what got them into programming in the first place. Coffee. I'm warning you right now. I'm going to be all over the place today. Okay. Haskell R is a fantastic package for using Haskell in R, I'm guessing. Let's bring the docs back. Wow. So first things first, we're going to need to include this in our pipeline, right? So at some point we're going to be able to say like, hey, we want to use Duckling in here. And I believe we just pop it in our pipeline, and I don't know that it's going to work well with diet. So let's just first see if we can use that and then see how it goes. I don't believe text needs to be tokenized before it goes into Duckling. Let's just give that a copy, paste it in here, and see if it gives a config. Okay, so right now we have the diet classifier that does intent detection, and I think I want the Duckling entities to be extracted before that. Do I know that this is going to work? Absolutely not. Have I been trying to work on it for the last day? Yep. How did that go? Real bad. Real bad. Oh, right. Okay, first step, let's actually make sure that we are in the directory where our assistant is. So what I'm doing now is I'm just seeing if I can retrain my model, and if I get an error when I do that because of the way that I've put it into my config file. Domain. I messed up. How did I mess up? Value none is not a dict. All right. I believe I need to specify more about Duckling. Validate. Please make sure the file is correct and all mandatory parameters specified. All of these errors, blah, blah, blah. Value none is not a dict. Value path / slot. So I do believe I need to add additional information about what the Duckling classifier is actually going to be looking for. And specifically, I want dates is what I'm going to be looking for now. Output entities requires nothing. Okay. Output examples. This is what the thing will look like. I need to run a Duckling server. That should be fine. If you specify both number and time, configuration. All right, here we go. So in my pipeline, leaving the dimensions open specified, we'll extract all. Okay, so I think this actually needs to go first, maybe? Let's get rid of this here. Because the Duckling, so a lot of things like diet rely on having the text broken into tokens first, like broken down into words in a language like English, usually. But I don't need anything to be tokenized or anything. I am just, for the Duckling portion of this, for the Duckling portion of this, I am just interested in the raw text, is what I was trying to say there. All right. So the only thing well, let's leave number in. We might try and do. I know Hairzone has been asking about numbers for so long and being so patient. So we'll leave that in, and we might do it for a little bit, and then English. I'm gonna guess that it should be EN-US, like US English, but we'll find out if that's wrong. Actually, by default, the language is used. Do I know that people are going to be using dates in the English way? I do not. So I'm just actually get rid of that. So I'm gonna say US Pacific. I don't think this is gonna work. I do not know. Okay, so I don't need to specify the language because it's going to be, I don't need to specify the locale because it's gonna be taken from the language. I do need to specify time zone because the time zone that the events are happening in is Pacific, so my current time zone. And I don't think that this is gonna work out. And then timeout is blah, 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 is how long it will keep asking for stuff, and I'm gonna pop that down to 1. So first let's fix the spacing issues. And then let's check the time zone syntax, because I'm almost positive that's not right. I'm just straight up guessing. Duckling time zone. Duckling time zone, that should be enough. Nope, this is all about ducks, like actual, like, wah, wah, ducks. Okay, that's not it. Duckling time zone syntax, maybe? It might be in the Weve AI, this one, so let's try that. Implementation. Oh no, this is all closure. Started. First. Okay. Sending maybe? I don't know that this is even the right version, to be honest. I'm just trying to see if I can find an example of what the time zones look like. Don't care about any of this. All right, not super helpful. So, oh wait, I did have it open here. Let's see if we can find anything in here about the time zones. Extending, standard, locale, license, BSD, setting up your Haskell environment. Good cue. Wheel. Enrique says, how do you know the right order of policies in the pipeline? Any trick there? So, oh, I guess I do need the second light. That's what's stopping the shadow from showing up. I'm gonna turn the light on, but I'm gonna keep talking. So the some things require being in a specific order, right? So if a it's so much less dramatic, but also you can't see the shadow behind me. So some things require being in a specific order, right? So something that requires the input to be tokenized has to come after a tokenizer, and it has to come after the tokenizer that it expects. And which tokenizer, which model expects is, you can just look that up. And it does have to be the same, or you'll run into dimension mismatch errors, usually is a common one. Or you'll get results out, but it'll just be completely nonsensical. Yeah, so just knowing about the models is really the only trick there. And for Duckling, it said it required nothing, if you'll remember. So it requires nothing, so it can come first because nothing has to happen before it. But something like the Spacey Tokenizer requires tokens, so you have to do, the CRF entity extractor, you have to have tokens and you might have dense features. So tokens, something to create tokens has to come before the CRF entity extractor in the pipeline, if that makes sense. You can start the server including dimensions. Yeah, so I just want to make sure that the syntax of my pipeline is right. So the stuff I get out of my extractor once the server is run is, you know, Right. How's Benson? He's good. He's probably sleeping now. He just came back from his walk a little bit ago. David says, why have you specified the entity recognizer before the tokenizer? I don't need tokens for Duckling. It just works on like the raw text string input. And my worry is that if I do my tokenization first, it's going to be harder to extract the correct entities because it expects that raw user input. I could be doing it wrong. We'll find out together. All right, so you know what? I don't think I actually need to set the time zone right now. So let's just get rid of that rather than trying to look it up because it's taking me too long. I'm getting distracted. All right. Just let's make sure that our spacing is correct. That looks right, right? Yep, I think that's right. Okay, so now let's try to train again and see if it works. And we shouldn't need a server running to train. This is basically, I'm just training here to check for syntax errors because nothing right now that we're using actually requires it. All right, what do I do? Please make sure the file is correct and all majority parameters are specified. Oh, the errors in domain not config at all. All right, what I do? I'm gonna check responses. So I'm basically just going through and I'm checking. Okay. Rasa. I'm just looking for typos and errors in. Is this right? Value none is not a dict. Value path slots. Okay, I think because I don't have any slots, I should just remove that. Let's see if we can train now. I think that's what the error is, but let's find out. It's taking a little bit longer. Yay, okay, excellent. TechTom says, is the entity recognized that you used unsupervised? So I believe Duckling is rule-based, right? So people have gone through and built the rules by hand to do it. Which, again, you could do yourself, but why? Someone else has done the work and is maintaining it, so use the existing resource. It's more efficient. Which entity extractor is the best in terms of performance, Duckling or CRF or Hugging Face transformers, etc.? In which situation do you decide which one to use? So Duckling is used for a very narrow set of things like dates and numbers, which is what we're doing now, URLs, emails, things like that. For entities that you are looking for specifically in Rasa, I would actually recommend Diet, which is our current recommendation, and I believe currently only English is supported, so if you're working with English. And that's actually a multitask model that extracts both the entities and the intents together. So that's our current recommendation that was developed by our research team. It's pretty robust, it works pretty well, we're happy with it. CRF is, you know, perfectly fine, maybe not going to have quite as good performance. And then for Hugging Face transformers, if you are using a model that's based, if you're using a model from that library, you want to use the entity extractor from that library as well, so that they, like, the expectations of what the model needs to run for, I don't know, whatever it is that you're using it for, are met, basically. So if you start using one library or one pipeline, you should keep using that library or pipeline if there are dependencies between the components, if that makes sense. David, the problems with slots, yep, I did eventually figure it out. Yep, and I would say in general, yeah, Duckling is for a specific set of things that we talked about, and then CRF is more more general. But yeah, if you can use Diet, give it a shot, see what you think. It's been working pretty well in pretty much every project I've tried it on. I will say I'm predominantly an English speaker. My most fluent second language is not written or spoken, which does make it a little bit rough to do chatbots. But I've had really good success with Diet, so I'd recommend it. And Vincent also has a bunch of algorithm whiteboards that go into a lot more detail about what Diet is and what it does. All right, so we should now be able to, first let's run the Duckling server, which the code for that is in here. Is the, there we go, here's the code for running Duckling. Oh, I should say we are using Docker to answer Faiz's question, but we're using it locally, and I have installed Docker previously, and it took a while. If you're doing it on Windows, just use their executable. It's genuinely the easiest way. Invalid reference format. Port is already allocated. All right, one sec. I'm gonna poke around in stuff that I'm doing right now. But also, I want my thing to look good. Hi, I'm gonna use this one instead. Does it say what I think it says? Should work. Port is already in use. Port is not in use. Invalid publish ops format should be name value at localhost user. All right, this was working yesterday, so I'm excited to see that we're getting fun new results. Big fan of that. I'm not. I think I also have Duckling installed locally, so let's say running Duckling locally. That might work as well. How to raise ducklings, a step-by-step guide. That's not what I want. All right, pull this up. Mm-mm. 2 years ago. I'll have the slides once they're done. I don't think they're done. That's okay. We've all been guilty. Okay, fascinating. Can y'all hear me now? Hopefully. Talk, talk, talk. Well, we'll find out. Anyway, what I was saying is I could build somebody could build something to do this. But don't. You've got better things to do with your life. Someone else has already done it. Just be efficient, right? And use the existing thing. Yeah, so I think the whole thing where I was talking about like, hey, look at the entities we've extracted. Nobody heard any of that, but we extracted some entities. So like just from this text, I don't have any slots, so I haven't set anything, but I do have this. Right, the information has been extracted. I'm not saving it or doing anything with it, but I have identified it, right? We couldn't hear me for 10 minutes. No, I'm sorry, y'all. I noticed that I had 2 audio inputs and I turned off the wrong one. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so that's what I was just saying is like, hey, we can, you know, also a lot of that was just me trying to figure out what the command was to just launch the NLU part. And it is Rasa shell NLU. And I just had to figure that out. Sorry about that. So that's how Duckling works. Let's handle these slots. So, better. Okay, fantastic. So I want to do something with day. And I also need to find my tab with all the documentation, and I think I've just lost it, so let's pop this up. Yep, okay, so the one we're using is Haskell, supported dimensions, custom dimensions. Oh, so if you wanted to do your own, you could also do that like so, and add additional like rules and stuff to extract something more particular. Also, Duckling will be a little bit faster than something like HRF. Is my gut instinct that I have no evidence for, but it feels right, right? Because rule-based systems tend to be faster to run at inference time, just because they're doing fewer things. Extending, add a new locale, Duckling debug. Well, that's not what I was looking for. Let's pull that back over here. All right, step 1, spell Rasa and Duckling correct. There we go. Okay, we're back on the components page. 2.0, which is the version that we're using. So I'm wondering, right, if tokenizers, futurizers, featurizer, be under entities, featurizers, tent, Configurations, classifiers, fallback classifiers. There we go. Okay. Nope, that's the fallback classifier. Where's Duckling? Why am I so tired? I know why I'm tired. I know exactly why I'm tired. Intents, entity, there we go. All right, so it outputs entities. How do I get them? Extract full dimensions. Yeah, okay, fantastic. So my question that is not being answered on this particular page, and the docs were rewritten pretty substantially with a 2.0 update, so stuff that was in one place is no longer in that place. Are these being saved in slots? I don't think they are. So let me add something. Grub says, hope you cast your voice. I did not record it locally, so there's just going to be a silent spot in the middle of this. Sorry. Vascular says, how much documentation is there in the Rasa docs? A lot. We try to have very thorough documentation, so you have, you know, a lot to answer your questions, and also it's a really fully featured library. Like, one of the things that we hope with Rasa is that it's really flexible and it can answer, you know, a lot of different use cases, and that you can really extend it and, you know, help build it and make it your own. And it's open source, so if you make contributions, those are added in and then documented. So yeah, it's like building a simple bot is very simple, but you can really go as complex as you need to, and we want to make sure that people have the ability to, you know things. Ugh. Martina says, is Spacey or Duckling better in terms of entity extracting? They do different things. Well, Spacey does some of that sort of like templatic stuff as well. I would say that Spacey's probably going to be a little bit slower for things like dates, just because Python tends to be a little bit slower than Haskell or Clojure, because it's, you know, Python was designed to be easy to learn and not necessarily the fastest possible language. And in general, older programming languages and things written in older programming languages run faster and are harder to use as a human being with eyes. It's just sort of the very general trend. And again, I have no evidence that Duckling is faster than Spacey that I know of off the top of my head, but it feels right. My intuition. David says, if I just have to use the entity extractor and the intent classifier, I would suggest to use a blank or existing language model. What should be the approximate size of my data set in either case? If you have quite a bit of data, I would say train your own language model. Quite a bit is going to depend on how diverse your, you know, target case is. If people are only going to say like 3 things, and they're going to say those things in like a relatively similar way every time, you don't need that much data. If people are going to say, you know, 100 different things and each thing they could say in a wildly different way, then you need a lot more data because it's a lot more uncertain. Basically, it's just sort of like a general NLP principle. I would say in general, when you're first prototyping, start with a pre-trained language model if one is available for a language that you are working with, because you're going to be able to get it up and running faster. And then later on, once it's a little bit more established, you can try training your own language model, especially once you have user data, unless you have a very narrow domain and very few classes, and a general language model is giving you weird results, broadly. Yeah, but how much training data you need is a function of how complex your question is, right? So if I want to approximate a function and it's a circle, I don't need that many points to figure out, oh, it's a circle. If I'm trying to approximate a function that's like the outline of a stegosaur, I need a lot more points to figure out, oh, it's a stegosaur, and then, you know, interpolate where the missing pieces might be. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, okay, so I think I need to save this as a slot. Can I just have a slot day? Will that work? Let's try that. Let's see if just having a slot day will work. And I think the number slot was just called number. Let's give this a shot and see if it works. Control C. There we go. Okay. So let's retrain real quick. Let's retrain, except there's a space between Rasa and train. Rasa train. Let's retrain, except we spell it right. Oh, I saw like a small clip of like a Dolly Parton music video for her Christmas album that's coming out this morning, and I just like started sobbing. Going great. Day number is not a valid. Dict, value, path, slots. Do slots have to be in quotes potentially? David Joy, thanks. Yeah, you're welcome. I hope that was helpful. Ow. Myself in my teeth. Okay. Let's look up an example. I think that's going to be the easiest thing. So domain. And go back to the docs, and it is Control K. Domain. There we go. Okay, yeah, so I have royally messed up the syntax. So let's try this one more time. Can I slot types? So I'm looking to see if there's a slot type that is specifically for Duckling. Because we changed the way that we do slots with 2.0. Or 2.x, I should say. 2.2 plus, 2 forward. Categorical slot, float, list, any, custom, unfeaturized or deprecated, autofill. If your NLU model picks up an entity and your domain contains a slot with the same name as the entity type, the slot will be set automatically with the entity value. In this case, you don't have 2 slots, so I can enable space. Okay, so we should be able to just say domain contains a slot with the same name as entity type. In this case, you don't need to include the slot with subparts. Automatically pick. Okay, okay, so we should just be able to say I'm just going to say any. Slots of type any are always ignored during conversations. The property influence conversation cannot be set to true for this slot type. If you want to use a custom data structure which should influence the conversation, use a custom slot type. I don't think any of my slots are going to influence the So the date won't influence the conversation, but the number will. So the date can be any, but so the date can be any, but number cannot be, because number is going to influence the conversation because we're going to use it to pick the next turn of the conversation. Date? It was called day, yeah? Let's see. Let's scroll up to where we were doing it. That's not it. All right. Entity, start, end, text, day, value, confidence, values, grain, day, type, value, and time. Okay, so it's called time. So let's just call this time. Time, there we go. And then I'm looking for the number. Entity number, all right. Number, okay, so number is going to be, I believe we only have an option for float, so I'm going to call it a float, but know that it will only be not floats. Float was a type, yeah. I don't think we had integer as a type. Any influence conversation list. Use for storing real numbers. Categorical. Storing slots which can take one of n values. Boolean, true, false. Okay, so what I'm thinking about here, I'm just walking through my thoughts. Boolean doesn't make sense because we're going to have more than 2 options, right, for our numbers. Floats, we can give like a maximum and a minimum, and it will store it as a float and not a numeral. But I think that's okay because we can just say, yeah. I think we want to do floats because they are numbers. The other option we could have is categorical, where it's gonna be one of these options that we have, one of these values. But I think that would be better for if we had it like option 1, option 2, option 3, as opposed to the numbers being 1, 2, 3. Because I want to make sure that numbers are still numbers, even though I don't want to do math to them. I might change my mind and go back and make it categorical in the future. We'll find out. But maybe. All right, type float. And then we had to put the min and the max, right? So I'm gonna say that we're gonna have like 3 options to start with. So I'm gonna have our min actually be 0, and then our max be 3. And I think that any number above 3 is going to be mapped to 3. And I think I'm gonna have an error here because I put those in as integers and not floats, but we'll find out. All right, let's try training again. NLU configuration did not change. Sure didn't. How do we interact with a deployed bot on K3s using a custom channel? I have not worked with K3s. I would ask about that on the forums or search in the docs and see if you can find something. Martina says, is there a limit on the number of entities the Duckling can extract from a single user statement? No. Can you show how to extract multiple entities using Duckling from a single statement? Yeah, so let's, that's a good question. Rasa, NLU, and I also want to know what the NLU is up to. Raz. There we go. Wait for that to open. So it will extract multiple entities, and I believe it is in JSON. So I want 3 mangoes today. So 3 should be extracted as a number, and today should be extracted as a date. Right, so entities, we have the number entity that's been extracted and the date entity that's been extracted. And I could do that, and let's today and tomorrow. So today and tomorrow are both dates, and those should both be extracted. So we've got, you know, the 7th, which is tomorrow. We have the 6th, which is today, and then we have the number here. And what was the second part of your question? Multiple entities using, yeah. So you just, they're all extracted. By default, Duckling is going to find everything that it can find, it will find. Right now it's only looking for numbers and dates because that's what I've specified in my config file. By default, it's going to look for all of the things it can possibly get. So it's going to get URLs, it's going to get emails, it's going to get credit card numbers, it's going to get phone numbers, it's going to get dates, it's going to get times, all of that together. And it just does it by default. Because presumably if you're using Duckling, it's because you need you need the entities. Control C to close that. So let's try and do the thing where we get the press 1 to ask, enter 1 to ask about Rasa, and 2 to ask about So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this option where people can enter numbers, and then I'll give the response to that. So let's close you, and we're going to need a rule for this. So right now we just have an FAQ rule, and I'm going to add a new one, which I'm going to call rule option 1. Steps, so action, utter, greet, because that's the one where we are often options. And then entity, oh, I don't think this is right. Let's look up the numbers. Rasa docs rules. And rules are new in 2.0. Pop that open. I would like an example, please. Okay, so we can set slot was set is what we should do here. So also, let's add an intent that's just adding in a number. So, wait, do we have an inform intent? General inform intent? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding some examples in the inform intent that is, hey, I'm entering just a number. So I'm gonna also add option 1. And I don't need to specify that these are entities that Duckling should extract because Duckling is automatically doing that to all text that's coming in. Okay, so save that. We're gonna have to retrain, but we knew that already. So back to our rule. So now that should be identified as the intent inform. Why can't I mouse good? Intent, inform. Okay, so somebody asks, is like, hey, inform, and then also we have set the slot. And then condition. Set, and the slot we called number. Possible information you can include in your under condition includes slot was set and active user event. False rules and forms. Okay, so I think it's just going to be, hey, is there information here? But I want it to be exactly equal to something. Also, it's not how you spell slot. Even a little bit. All right, so intent inform, and then we're going to take action utter back to our domain. So 1 is to ask about Rasa. Ask Rasa. We're going to utter this. I don't think this is going to work, but hopefully it will break in an informative way. Let's give this a shot. I think we've saved everything, so let's retrain. I love to just like up arrow past all my typos, being like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong too. All right, we made a whoopsie. But found block start sequence. What? Failed to read. All right, I got. Rules. Okay, check. Apps. Okay, so I'm just pulling up the docs again. Beza says, how are rules different from stories? So rules will always occur in the order that you specify them. So rules are inflexible, stories are more flexible, and they're more training data for your ways that the conversation can go. And using the memoization policy, if folks are always following the exact path of the story, then the story will continue to unfold, but people can say different things and get different intents identified, and what's already existing in the story can still be used to figure out what to say next to have a successful conversation. Rules will always be executed precisely the way that they are written. In general, you want to use stories more than rules, and only use rules for things like this one where you have a specific thing that you always want to happen when a user does something. All right. How have I messed up? I think I've spelled slot was set correctly. Rasa rule check slot value. Anyway, to the forums. 21 days. That might be a little bit out of us. That was set for any value. You can put the rules for whatever you can put in stories. It's essentially the same format. If it works in stories, it'll work exactly the same way in rules. Okay, gotcha. That's helpful. So we can use the same syntax that we can use in stories. So Rasa story slot set value. Hey, bud. Enrique says with or without the dash. In slot was set, I'm pretty sure it's with the dash. Could be wrong on that though. Okay, no, that's right. Okay. Oh, you mean the dash under slot was set? Maybe. I feel like... Here we are in stories. So this is a stories example, and the what I just got from that was that the... So can I do maybe like it's gone forever? Entity. I don't think that's gonna work either, but it might. All right, let's find out. I think we're gonna get an error here. Yep, okay. Entities, ordered, not a list. Value path, rules, one condition. Okay, value to validate, please make sure the file is correct. Okay, so this looks correct, and the problem is here with the formatting of the number. So it'd be great if I could have all of the tabs that are underneath my there we go. That's what I wanted back. Okay. Entities, cuisine, Spanish. Entities. Yeah. Condition. This should be under intent. If the syntax is supposed to be exactly the same. Okay, so I don't actually need a condition. I just need to, hey, if we have an intent here, and then this needs to be lined up with that, and then that needs to be lined up with that. Hey Rachel, how do you feel about YAML? That's fine. Oh, I didn't erase the wrong thing. Okay, peace out. So I'm hoping that what this will work, because it's saying, hey, if these things occur in this order and there's an intent and form with this entity, the number is extracted, does it work? This is hopeful. This is a good progress. Some water. Okay. Erzon says numbers are complicated. Numbers are complicated. Not as complicated as words, though. All right, let's see if this works. Hey Rachel, couldn't you use Rasa X for this? Sure could. Absolutely I could. I just don't want to deal with another I don't want to deal with another window. Okay, we're doing good. We're doing great. It works. We do have a little warning here, which is interpreter parsed entity number, which is not defined in the domain. So I believe I haven't defined it under entities. Actually, I don't think I have any entities, so I should probably add those, huh? Let me just look it up in the docs. I'm happy though. This is big progress. E-N-T-I-T-I-E-S. Domain. Let's try that. Okay, yeah, it is just entities, and then the name's the entities. So I have these slots, time and number, that I don't have in my domain, and I think when I retrain here, E-N-T-I-T-I-S, I'm going to get an error that's like, there's no training examples for these ones, and that'll be fine. There aren't. It's because Duckling's handling them, and we don't need to provide the training examples for that. Fine. And number. All right, so save that, close that, Control C. Guess what? We're training again. Didn't need to retrain the NLU. Quick update of the core. Should I be testing every time I train? Probably not. All right. Not right now, rather. Let's give this one more shot, and I think we should handle that warning, and it should work. And I finally answered your question, Erzon. Like, I don't know, a month after you asked it the first time. Two will be nothing. Yep, fantastic. Okay, so let's add the one for Kaggle just real quick, just as an example. So option 1, I dropped my mouse. Oh no, it got tangled. There we go. Okay, I have my mouse back. Option 1, Rasa. And we're gonna add a new one about Kaggle, so we could use this for Kaggle on a green form number 2. So you could just extend this to continue to ask questions. And at this point, I should probably put this on my GitHub publicly so y'all can see it, because I know this is something you're interested in particular. So this is how we can add additional options based on the number. And then if I wanted to add buttons, I could do that. Maybe that's what we'll do next Friday. So I think that's plenty. I hope y'all are holding it together a little better than me right now. So today we found out that I have a week-old Duckling server that's still running. So that's good. And we added Duckling entity extraction to our assistant, so that we can get dates, and eventually we'll do something with the dates, and also the numbers, so that we can enter numbers as like a multiple choice what to do next with our assistant. And because we're doing this using a rule, it will always, if you know the intent is in form and the entity extracted is the number 2, it will always do this. Whereas if this was a story and it's a little bit more flexible, so there might be instances where the intent was in form and 2 is extracted, but like something else was also extracted that changed the course of the conversation, right? And that's just a big rule difference between rules and stories, is that rules are not as flexible. Yeah, Enrique says, how do you train so fast? I mean, I have so 2 big things. So one, my model is already trained, right? So I'm just updating it, and by default, if we don't need to update the whole thing, we won't. Just be efficient. That's 1. 2, I have a very small model. So if you look at my domain, there's just not a whole lot going on this assistant right now, right? It's like 40 lines total, including the version information. The chatbot assistant took longer to train because it just had more things in it and it was doing more things. So that's part of it. Also, this computer, the computer that I stream from is, you know, fairly solid. It was designed for live streaming coding particularly, so it can handle this sort of task fairly well. But I think the biggest thing that's contributing to my model training quickly is that it's just small, right? It just doesn't have a lot of moving parts. And Faiza's like, do I have a tutorial for fallback intent when I don't have anything to say? Not just at the moment, but something that we could do in the future at some point. But you would just do it as a rule, right? If you had a specific thing that you were wanting to use. I don't know, hopefully that made sense. All right, thanks for joining, everybody. I'm calling it because I'm dying, Squirtle. I'm not. I'm fine. That is just an internet joke. Yeah, have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. I will be back on Wednesday, the 11th, for the first office hours. So if you have questions about, like, especially deployment, how you do different stuff, we will be talking about it there. Whole hour just answering questions. On Thursday, we're going to be doing a paper reading group. I don't know what the paper's going to be yet. I have a list. If you have recommendations, also feel free to hit me up with those. And then on Friday, we'll be continuing with live coding. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe buttons. We'll see. Something. We'll do something. And I will see you then. So have a great weekend. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And I'll talk to you live next Wednesday. All right. Talk to you then. Bye.